Happy New Year! We get a fresh start, so let's see what's coming up this year on my watch list. Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve, and today I'm going to present some of what's currently floating higher up on my watch list when it comes to my most anticipated film releases for 2025. If you're new and want an idea of what I enjoy, you can watch my top 10 list for 2024. The first film I'm going to mention is technically a 2024 release, The Last Showgirl. This has been on my watch list for a while, but it's one of those films that is taking a while to do its full rollout, so it will finally be available at my local cinema in January, at which point I will be able to see it. I'm very happy to see Pamela Anderson getting this opportunity, as well as receiving such a warm reception. She deserves it after being treated so poorly, and that's just me talking about the abomination that is Pam and Tommy. We're not even talking about everything else she's had to deal with in her career and personal life.
I am being very fucking positive.
We will be going through this year in sequential order, although I do expect this list to change significantly because release dates often get moved around or they get announced when they previously had not been. I've put this list together in December, and since then, more films have been releasing trailers and announcing release dates. So essentially, things change a lot, particularly when you're trying to make a watch list this far ahead of time. And also, sometimes I don't have as much of an interest when I only have a basic genre or log line and a cast list. But once I can see some actual promotional material, such as a teaser clip or a trailer, that's when my interest begins to spike. I'm not going to share everything that I'm planning to see, but I will instead try to focus on just a couple of films per month. Thank you to my patrons who got to watch part of this video early and also get access to an exclusive bonus video on the 2025 movies I'm not anticipating. Beginning with January, I am most interested in seeing Presence, which is a Steven Soderbergh film. I thought it was a horror film, but some are reporting it as a thriller. A family moves into a new house where there is a supernatural presence, and the camera moves in the point of view of that supernatural entity. I don't know if it's a ghost or a demon or something else entirely, but I will say it's a refreshing spin on a simple premise. Lucy Liu is the lead actor, and Steven Soderbergh is an interesting filmmaker with a lot of variety to his work. You've got the more commercial movies like the Ocean's trilogy and the first and third Magic Mike films. You have the critical darling Aaron Brockovich. I also really like his Che duology. Present seems promising, so at the moment that's the peak of my January list. I'm also interested in Companion, which is a psychological thriller starring Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid, and Lucas Gage. I don't fully know what the premise is, but I've seen a teaser for it and I'm intrigued by the mystery of what's being shown, as well as what isn't being shown about the story and presumably the mayhem that's going to ensue. For February, we start things off with Love Hurts, which is an action comedy starring Ki Kwan. He plays a former hitman turned realtor whose past is coming back to disrupt his life, which is presumably just an excuse to let Ki Kwan show off his skills as an action performer, so I expect that will be a lot of fun. My only reservations about a film like this is that when it comes to action in Hollywood, there is often an element of propaganda messaging, so if I see or hear any of that, it will undoubtedly lower my score.
Loved every moment. The kind of movie that makes you want to punch a cop. Whoa.
But hopefully they focus on just not getting into weird specifics and focus instead on the action and the comedy. We are here to see Ki Kwan show off his skills at both, and Daniel Wu playing his brother? Well, absolutely. That has to be good. And if it's not, I'm probably not going to be blaming either of them for how the film turned out because we, at this point, are very well aware of what they're capable of. The other February release I am currently looking out for is The Monkey. This is another Osgood Perkins film. The girls, we know all about Osgood Perkins.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He has been forging a cool path as a horror filmmaker over the last few years. I saw loads of people talking about Longlegs last year, so whether you loved or hated that, clearly he has the vision. The Monkey appears to be about a cursed toy. I don't know a lot of the specifics, and for the sake of not being spoiled, I haven't tried to look too deeply into it, but they've already released a trailer, and it most certainly grabbed my attention. Theo James stars as twin brothers, and Tatiana Maslany is also in this. She was incredible in Orphan Black, so I really hope that Osgood has given her material that makes good use of her incredible skills. For March, without question, my most anticipated watch right now is Ryan Coogler's Sinners. It stars Michael B. Jordan, and film social media is saying that this film is about vampires, although they haven't really revealed vampires in the promotional material I've seen thus far. That's okay though. Leave the good stuff for the actual theatrical viewing. I do not need to see you give everything away in a trailer. If you watch the trailer, I don't think I really need to elaborate on why I'm interested in it. It looks very promising. Novocaine recently released a trailer. That's the film where Jack Quaid plays a man who has a medical condition where he can't feel pain, and he goes after some bank robbers who took his girlfriend hostage. I'm not as excited about this as I would like to be, because I think it's way more fun to see Amber Midthunder do action than Jack Quaid. It's a waste of her skills to just have her in this as a damsel in distress, but at least the main character of a new Hollywood action film doesn't seem to be a cop, as far as I can tell. So, for the time being, I'm planning on checking it out. I'm also tentatively interested in The Woman in the Yard, but that interest is only based off of a basic description and some names that I recognize among the cast and crew. I would rather wait until I can see a full trailer before I fully commit to categorizing this as highly anticipated. For April, my most anticipated watch is Mickey 17. Joon-ho is an excellent filmmaker. Snowpiercer is one of my absolute favorites, and I'm rather intrigued by how much more comedic of a tone this trailer has compared to the stories I personally think of when I think of Bong Joon-ho. Then again, I associate his humor as an artist as being more so dark humor, so we're presumably going to be mocking the capitalist machine once again. The premise is proof of that. Robert Pattinson plays Mickey, a person who is so desperate to get off of Earth that he signs up to be a disposable employee who does the worst jobs, and if he dies, a new body is regenerated and that body will have most of his memories. That trailer has been playing a fair bit, so I'm assuming you've probably already seen that, but if you haven't, feel free to go watch it. Robert Pattinson looks like he's having a lot of fun with this one. I have two honorable mentions for April. They are Until Dawn and The Accountant 2. I don't know anything about Until Dawn. I do not play video games, but I met David Sandberg and his wife Lotta at Comic-Con when they were promoting a different film, and I briefly chatted with them, and when I asked him what he was looking to do next, he said that he really wanted to do another horror film. So if he's excited and getting back to his horror roots, then I am very interested in seeing what that will look like now that he has had more experience with making larger scale films. And for The Accountant 2, I suppose I'm mostly intrigued that everyone involved was passionate enough about the story to the point that they were all coming back to do this. Same director, same screenwriter, and of course you've also got Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, J.K. Simmons, Cynthia Addai Robinson. The Accountant wasn't really a film that gave me the impression that the corporate overlords were clamoring to do more with it. So to me, that suggests that this is a sequel being born from a genuine interest from the creatives involved in continuing the story, doing more with these characters, and also just continuing to collaborate with one another. Moving to May, this is when we hit the point where there is little to no promotional material out, such as trailers or teaser clips, to give me a more concrete picture of what I can expect for the rest of the year. There are franchise films from May onward that do have trailers out already, but you will see from my list which franchise films, if any, are ones that I'm highly anticipating. For May, one of my anticipated choices is A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. The only thing I'm seeing listed about it is that it's a romantic fantasy film, and the first two names on the call sheet are Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell. That is sufficient enough for me for the time being, but do let me see a trailer because I would like to know more. Another one for May is a film called Golden, which is apparently a musical. There are many big names on the cast list, but the main reason why I'm intrigued, two names. One of those names is Kelvin Harrison Jr., who played B.B. King and Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, which was my #1 film of 2022, and he also played Chevalier in Chevalier, which was my #2 film on my top 10 list for 2023. I'm very annoyed that Chevalier is not available on physical media, and I will surely let him know as much if I ever end up on a press junket with him. Kelvin is a fantastic actor. And the other name that has my attention from the Golden cast list is, of course, Divine Joy Randolph, aka Charmonique from Selfie. At this point, she's unofficially a recurring presence on this channel, considering how much I reference Selfie on here.
No, I don't want no scrubs. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me.
May is also when we have a new Final Destination film. I am interested to see how that goes, and I do hope that it will be good because the last one felt like such a strong finale, so expectations will be raised as a result. Also, the late great Tony Todd is in this, so I really hope that the film gives him some great scenes. I don't know if he will just be popping in here and there the way that he usually does in those films, or if they have expanded his presence a bit more. I definitely am going to need to see a trailer to hopefully get somewhat of a feel of where they're going with this. And finally for May, we have The Life of Chuck. It's a new Mike Flanagan film, and that's all I need to know. We don't need to go through the cast, although I'm sure plenty of people are happy about any number of folks that are listed on it. If you said new Mike Flanagan film and told me nothing else, no cast, no premise, that would be enough for me to put it on this list. Although Mike, If you do something bad to a cat again, I am going to throw my shoe at you. I love your work, but I've had enough of your antics with cats. You're better than that. Actually, I will say something about the cast. If you work for Neon Publicity, please let me interview Karen Gillan, aka Eliza Dooley. Please and thank you.
I'm nobody's plus one. I'm VIP, bitches.
Moving to June. At the time of my recording this, the 28 Years Later trailer has dropped fairly recently, so that's easily going to be my most anticipated of this month's roster for the time being. Do not underfund trailer editors. It is an art form in and of itself, and the 28 Years Later trailer is a perfect example of that.
You gagged?
Danny Boyle is back, and the cast looks really good. I need to do a 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later rewatch because those films are not quite as fresh in my recollection. And an honorable mention for June is Megan 2.0. I really hope they will let this one be R-rated because I would like to see them work with fewer restrictions. And ultimately, I'm most interested in Akilah Cooper's perspective with this new screenplay, since she did the screenplay for the first one, and the narrative with all the commentary about technology and the way that it's used, or should I say misused, as a crutch for looking after children was something I found especially interesting about the first film. And to a lesser degree, I would say an honorable mention is Ballerina. The thing is, I feel very particular about the John Wick films as a work of art. John Wick was born as a creative, independent passion project for Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves, and their mutual backgrounds with action as an art form on film. Doing a spin-off makes me wary because then I have to wonder if it will just lose that distinct essence and authenticity that I feel the other films have. However, Len Wiseman did do some decent work with Underworld, so I will wait to reserve my full judgment until I can see the finished result. Obviously, I would rather it turn out to be stellar, but I am going to maintain a healthy amount of skepticism until then. July is completely overrun with franchise films, so obviously my most anticipated film is going to be the untitled Trey Parker film starring Kendrick Lamar. If you don't know who Trey Parker is, he and Matt Stone are creative partners who created South Park as well as the Book of Mormon. So comedic satire is a pillar of their creative point of view. I need you to keep that in mind when I tell you what the premise is for this yet to be titled film. The film, penned by Vernon Chatman, will see the past and present come to a head when a young black man who is interning as a slave reenactor at a living history museum discovers that his white girlfriend's ancestors once owned his. Now, I do not believe for 1 second that Kendrick Lamar, of all people, would sign up for a project with that type of premise unless it was something he really believes in doing. He is simply not a quantity over quality type of artist. Thus, there is nothing else releasing in July that I am more intrigued by than this. I need to see a trailer. I want to get more of a sense of what this is and what sort of sense of humor they will be delivering with this project. Other than that, I would like to know what on earth is going on with the I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel. August has a few films I'm looking up for now, until I can get more information or trailers. Liam Neeson is doing a new Naked Gun film, which I'm particularly intrigued by because lately it feels as though he's just been churning out these disposable action films that never pique my curiosity because they all just feel like they're trying to capitalize on his popularity from doing Taken. I'm not interested in seeing a new cop movie, but what piques my curiosity about this film is that it means Liam Neeson is not merely doing yet another generic action film, but an action comedy. I don't know, maybe his visit to Dairy Girls reminded him that he would like to have a silly time and a giggle.
For the tape, the inspector is refusing us the right of legal representation.
There is no tape.
Also, I kept seeing that one headline floating around about him and Pamela Anderson, and it looks as though this is what project it was that they had collaborated on. She's in this. I didn't click through to the article. I wasn't interested in personal gossip. But yes, she's in this as well, and I suppose that'll be fun for her. I love that she's having such a renaissance. You should all watch her documentary, by the way, if you have not already done so. And I would also recommend throwing eggs at the Pam and Tommy series and everyone that thought that that was a good idea.
Ah, les petits.
August also has a survival thriller called Beneath the Storm. You've got Miss Daphne Bridgerton, Phoebe Dynevor, in this, as well as Mr. Jimon I'm in Every Movie Honsu in it as well. So cool. let me see a trailer whenever it's ready. August is also when the Freaky Friday sequel is coming out, and the promotional image I saw floating around online did not look good. It looked very washed out in the coloring. It looked like a disposable direct-to-streaming film, so I hope that's not what the sequel is going to look like in the full finished result. In general, I suppose I have mixed feelings about them doing a sequel for this, but I do want to see Lindsay Lohan back in movies that release in the cinema, so if this can spark more of that momentum for her to get back in the cinemas instead of only appearing on underfunded direct-to-streaming films, then ultimately that will be the ideal outcome. September, we've got a sports horror film called Him with Jordan Peele's production company, and it's starring Marlon Wayans. Say no more. Tell me when the tickets go on sale.
I can taste the leather.
September, we also have a musical called The Bride. Maggie Gyllenhaal is the screenwriter, director, and co-producer, and the musical is drawing inspiration from Bride of Frankenstein as well as the Frankenstein novel. And Jessie Buckley is playing the lead character, Frankenstein's bride, and Christian Bale is playing Frankenstein's monster. So all of that sounds very interesting to me. I look forward to seeing a trailer because if it's a musical, I want an idea of what their concept is, sonically speaking. October has a lot of sequels, but before we talk about some of those, I will also mention that this month is the current release date for Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic. I know that biopics are sort of a controversial genre. A lot of people seem to be exasperated by them, but if they're done well, I don't mind them. I'm particularly intrigued by the fact that they've got Michael Jackson's nephew, Jafar, playing him. So I will need to see a trailer to see if there's something else in this to capture my attention. But as for it being a sequel-heavy month, in sequential order, some of the ones that I have questions about are Tron Ares, The Black Phone 2, and Mortal Kombat 2. Tron Ares has been very controversial, at least on film Twitter, but I'm particularly interested in what the score is going to sound like. Tron Legacy had this incredible iconic score by Daft Punk. Tron Ares has 9 Inch Nails listed for the music, so I really want to hear what sort of sound they're going to go for. Maybe it's unusual to be curious about a film score more than the film itself, but it's a very specific case because of the high standard set by Daft Punk's work on Tron Legacy. Derezed is a bop.
So now if you'll excuse me, they're playing my jam.
The Black Phone 2 I'm curious about because the first film ended with Ethan Hawke's character being killed, but he's back, so I'm presuming they will continue to lean into that supernatural side of things, and I suppose I'm mostly curious about what the narrative concept will be. I don't need full spoilers, of course, but you know, a trailer and a logline will suffice. And Mortal Kombat 2, I suppose I'm most curious about the fact that a sequel exists at all because the first one was released during that awkward transitional period where all the films from that year on WB's roster did the split release in cinemas and HBO Max because it wasn't clear whether cinemas would be open and to what degree, so it was a bit more difficult to gauge how successful the films were. I'll be interested to know if it fares better or worse now that it seems to be heading for a regular theatrical release. But actually, the most intriguing or most anticipated film for now of October's current lineup, for me, is Aziz Ansari's film Good Fortune because he's the director and screenwriter, and Keanu Reeves is starring in it, and I'm definitely interested in seeing Keanu do more comedy. November, there's a new Predator film by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed the Predator film Prey, and that was very good, so I'm hopeful that he will bring more of that caliber of work to this next story in this universe. And the other most anticipated release for November is The Running Man, which is the new Edgar Wright film based on the Stephen King novel that he originally published under a pseudonym. This is currently on my to-read list, so more detailed opinions are on pause until I get to that. At the time of working on this video, I recently finished reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, and before that, my most recent finished read was Small Things Like These, which was great, and it was also a quick read. The ebook I rented from the library, I think it was less than 100 pages. I've got something else on my to-read list for an upcoming video, so you will just have to stay tuned for that one, if you're interested in that sort of thing. And finally, surprising absolutely no one who watches my videos on a regular basis, my most anticipated film for December 2025 is James Cameron's Avatar, Fire and Ash. I love James Cameron's work, I love his environmental activism, I love the Avatar films.
Demon! I will kill you as many times as I have to.
Everyone should aspire to be on the level of Toruk Makto, to organize and fight back against colonialism and settlers. Let me know your most anticipated films for 2025 in the comments so I can see what's managed to grab your attention this early.
One of the lessons is caveat emptor.